A couple of weeks ago, TTArtisan reached out to me and asked me if I would like to review a lens. In exchange for that, they would send me the lens and I get to keep it. The lens is the TTArtisan 40mm f2 4L mount. And of course, I said yes, because I have the Lumix S9, a camera that is begging for small lenses. Another reason I said yes was I have experience with the brand. I used the 50mm f2 and the 23mm f1.2 for Fujifilm. I thought those manual lenses were great, and I was excited to try TTArtisan's autofocus lens for L mount. Just because they sent it to me doesn't mean they get a say in this video. The review photos and everything I've done is my own opinion, and any strengths or weaknesses are my own findings. Let's get over some specs real quick. First of all, this costs $168 US. The lens is so new that TTArtisan has not updated their website with this lens on their website. However, it is available at major retailers like Amazon and B&H. Affiliate links below if you are interested. The build quality is excellent. It is an aluminum alloy, according to their marketing materials. It feels really solid in the hand, yet it is extraordinarily light. That comes into play when you're using a camera like the Lumix S9. It has a clicking aperture wheel that I absolutely love. There's not a lot of lenses in the L mount system right now that do this. Let me play that for you real quick. Beautiful. It is f16 to f2, and it has an autofocus and auto aperture mode. The filter thread is 52mm. It comes with a few accessories. This plastic lens cap, this lens hood, which is either a type of metal or a hard plastic. I can't quite tell from feel alone, but it feels really solid. And it comes with a special end cap that has these connector points in them and a USB port. And that is how you update the firmware. Like I said, TTArtisan's own website does not have this lens listed, so I haven't been able to check for updates yet, but I'm assuming updates are coming. And I'll show you real quick what it looks like with the lens hood, and that'll be the last time I do that because I don't use lens hoods. I know that's probably frowned upon by some, but I don't like carrying them around in my bag, even small ones like this one. There's no autofocus manual focus switch. And that's not really a big deal, but on this particular body, the S9 doesn't have a physical switch for autofocus to manual focus, so you have to use the menu system. The larger cameras like the S12E I'm filming on now does have the little switch that you can just quickly switch over to manual mode. Not a big deal, just letting you know. Something I should point out is this entire package on the S9 is actually a bit smaller than the Leica Q3. So when you're comparing these, it's a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller overall than the Leica Q3. And the Leica Q3, for reference, is renowned for being a great travel camera, a great everyday camera, a great walking around, have on you camera. That's what this has become because of this lens. Clearly, I'm stumbling on the technical specs and telling you all the details of the lens because that's not my excitement point. This channel's about how I use it in photography. All I want to know is whether or not they're going to take good photos. So let's start talking about photography. Day one with the lens, I actually had a conference. And I got to the conference early. The sun wasn't quite up yet. It was in that blue hour. So I took some low light photos while I was waiting for the facility to open. There happened to be string lights. I was very pleased with the result because the bokeh in the background was really nice. Now I'll touch on this again when I talk about my night photography stuff, but the separation from the foreground and the background was just very nice. Good natural fall off at f2. I tried to take some photos indoors, and unfortunately, I made some mistakes on the camera body, not on the lens itself. I did get one photo that I was after where I was trying to focus on a far away light source and have lights in the foreground be out of focus, and that actually came out pretty well. So it did do well indoors. I didn't have good settings set. But the very next morning, I was treated to a real gift. When I left the house, it was clear where I live. You know, there was no indication that there was any weather. But as I crested a hill coming down into the reservoir, I could see a layer of fog. And that was really exciting because I love shooting foggy, moody scenes like that. And it gave me an opportunity to test the lens out in a little bit more challenging light source. It was not only foggy, but it was also sunrise. I decided to put it in the Leica monochrome profile, which comes with all new Lumix cameras. So I didn't have any like LUTs or, you know, baked in looks or anything like that. I was just using a camera profile. And when you use a camera profile and you shoot in RAW, when you bring it into Lightroom, you can change it to whatever you want. I just wanted to shoot in black and white because that's how I saw the scene when I was out there. And I have to tell you, this lens performed amazingly well. It autofocused in challenging light. In fact, there was one photo I took that I was so impressed because I didn't make any edits to this photo. There are no sliders in Lightroom adjusting this photo. This photo is right out of the camera. This is a raw file with the Leica monochrome color profile on it. And I love this photo. Really, really clear edges on all the little branches and twigs and leaves. I wanted the front to be essentially a silhouette against the background. And I can't believe how the sun looks coming up through the fog in this photo. Just overall a fantastic image. As I proceeded around Chatfield Reservoir, I just noticed each and every photo I was taking, I was really excited by the results. I could see on my LCD screen that they were probably good. I was using f2, I was auto-focusing, and in some of the scenes, I probably should have adjusted away from f2. I was in aperture priority, but you know, I'm trying out a new lens. You always want to try it on the extremes. I think I got a little lost in the scene, to be honest with you. I was so taken with this, but I love these shots. They look very cinematic, very moody. So that was a great test. So the next test I did was night photography. It wasn't necessarily street. It was just, you know, night on the streets of Denver kind of thing. One of the first things that I keep coming back to with this lens is the bokeh. Just really, really beautiful, perfect bokeh balls. Even on the edges, they still look very pleasing. I think they did a great job with that out of focus area. But I was also impressed with the in focus area. Now, because I'm using the Panasonic Lumix system and the dual native ISO that they have, I was at ISO 4000, which really helps with night photography. These images are very crisp, they're very clear. The lens did fine finding focus, focusing on the areas that I was, you know, aiming at, and I feel like they came out really well. Now, I did notice that there is halation around light sources at night, and this is a look that I specifically go for with my Leica Q3. I actually have the short stash filter that has a CPL and a mist that gives me kind of that look at night. Now, the difference being on the Leica Q3, I can take that filter off. In this lens, it appears that that look is just that look. If that's a deal breaker for you, it might be. You know, some people really don't like that look, and that was definitely showing up. It shows up really clearly in a photo I took of my Pocket 3 recording me with the camera. You can really see it in the LCD screen of that Pocket 3, the halation going around, you know, all the little blue areas. But you can see it in the light posts. You can see it in the lights on the building. I felt like I should bring that up. And then my next test was, I think, how most people would view this whole package, this small, lightweight 40mm lens, and, you know, S9 small full frame body, and that is street photography. So I took it to the streets of Denver the next morning. I really like to do street photography in the morning because the buildings are casting heavy dark shadows and the sunlight coming through is very bright, and I just really like those contrasts. I feel like it did really well in those scenes. It did really well with high contrast scenes, but maintaining good dynamic range. Everything just looked really good, and I was very happy with the results. I also took my S1 IIe down there, and because the S1 IIe and the S9 share the exact same sensor and same menus, I pretty much had everything set exactly the same. So you can't really tell when I go from the S9 to the S1 IIe in these photos, and that's great. That means that the lens is performing across both equally. And I already may have mentioned this, the lens does not have an autofocus manual focus. The lens also is focused by wire, meaning there's no notches or anything to tell you what focal distance you're at. So you have to rely on your screen for focusing, which makes this a little less ideal for manual focus in the street. I would much rather do zone focusing. I haven't figured out how to do zone focusing digitally the way I knew how to on Fujifilm. So if there's a way, please let me know. Some quick thoughts on the Panasonic Lumix S9. This camera was released with a full frame sensor, a beautifully crafted small body. It has powerful features for both photography and video. But a camera that looks like this, and it is so small like this, just needs small lenses. Now, the first kit lens I got with this body was the 18-40, and it was about this size. It was small like this. However, when you needed to use it, you actually had to turn a ring and extend it out, which made it about the same length as their S primes. The lens itself was very light. It was also very slow. The variable aperture starts at 4.5 and goes up from there. I ended up having to return the whole kit because that's how camera systems work. You have to return the whole thing to get another one. So I was able to find this same international model with the silver top and the 20-60 lens. Now this lens starts at 3.5 and goes up from there, and it is just much better for both photography and video, in my opinion. These lenses, while not huge by any stretch of the imagination, this is an 18mm prime, this is the 20-60 zoom, are still considerably larger than this 40mm f2. In many ways, and I am not saying this because they sent me this, I really feel this way. This feels like the lens that should have come with the S9. The fact that they shipped this camera without something like that, they had that really weird plasticky 26mm, I think it is, pretty much universally panned as not very good. And here we are over a year later, and there's still really not any good options. TTArtisan has made an autofocus lens, and it appears to be designed specifically around using on this camera. I did a few tests for video just to see autofocus. It's probably not going to be a lens I use much for video. I mean, 40mm is fine. It's not good enough for vlogging. It's just a little too tight. So I'm probably not going to use it, but I did want to give you some indication that the autofocus is quiet. It works just fine. And I was able to, duck out of the frame, duck in the frame. It caught me. So autofocus is working just fine for video as well. Something else I should note for video, because this aperture ring is clicky, it does not have a way to disengage that and do a smooth aperture pull. So if that's something you're interested in for video, that's probably not going to work for you. Just wanted to let you know. To wrap this up, the TTArtisan 40mm f2 4L mount is a fantastic lens. I've actually been quite surprised by the images I've gotten from it, and that's only after a week of use. Now, if you've watched this channel, you know that I don't like images that are overly sharp, but I don't like images that are too soft. I appreciate images when they're sharp, when they need to be, and have graceful fall off. That's like what I look for in a lens. And all of that happens here. Now, at $168, it's priced pretty aggressively, especially for an autofocus lens. There's $168 manual focus lenses. There's more expensive manual focus lenses. 40mm is a great middle ground between 35mm and 50mm, which is usually people's street preference. Some people really like the wider look of 28. I'm one of those people. I had to grow and learn how to shoot that way. My previous preference was 35mm, and 40mm and 35mm are pretty close. I think it's a great middle ground for street photography, travel photography, landscape work. I mean, this has been a very versatile lens already, and I really like it. And I want to say this very, very clearly. This is, like I said, I'm not trying to shill this. I'm not trying to push my affiliate link or anything like that. I'm saying this honestly. I was on the edge about returning the S9. I wasn't sure I needed a true B-roll camera, which is kind of what this was. So this sort of saved the S9 for me. Anyway, that's it. My thanks to TTArtisan for sending me this lens. As I stated, I will put affiliate links below. You don't have to use them, of course, but if you want to support the channel, that's a nice way to support me. But if you want to support the channel and you don't want to spend a dime, it's really easy. Just give it a thumbs up. If you like content like this, please remember to subscribe. I am going to be doing a deep dive on the S9, and I have a review of the Leica Q3 coming up. That's it for me. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.